The title is The Whosoever. Let's say that together. The Whosoever. Turn to somebody and say it. The Whosoever. All right. Our text is Luke chapter 8, verses 45 to 46. As it comes up, let's read it together. Okay. We're continuing to explore the life of Jesus and his work through the Gospel of Luke. The context of our text is this. After Jesus has dealt with a physical and metaphysical storm on one side of the Lake of Galilee, he gets in the boat and goes back to the other side of the lake from which he initially comes. And when he gets out of the boat, there is a great crowd waiting for him, and they are very pleased to see him. They've been holding out, waiting for him. And he is approached by a guy called Jairus. Say Jairus. Now, Jairus has a problem. And so, who is Jairus? Jairus, we're told, was a ruler of a synagogue. Okay? He was a lay leader who oversaw the activities of a synagogue and maintained order during the services. He acted, if you like, as a president or a manager, ensuring that the building and the services were well managed. He supervised teaching and the education that went on from the synagogue. There is a dispute among scholars about the extent of his authority over the worshippers. But he was an important man and had responsibility. And his problem is that he had a 12-year-old daughter who had died. And so he approaches Jesus and asks Jesus, he says, right, will you come? Will you come with me? And because my daughter, 12-year-old, is sick, on the verge of death. Would you come and heal her? Now, that's a big thing to do in front of a great crowd. But he does it. And we read that Jesus responds and sets off with him to go to his house. And he's walking towards Jairus' house. How far Jairus' house was from where Jesus, when Jesus came out of the boat on this particular side of the Lake of Galilee, I don't know. But they set out, and the disciples and the great crowd are following. There's such expectancy, such excitement. Wherever Jesus goes, things happen. And so he's on his way there. And you can imagine the disciples kind of barging people out the way. You know, Peter shaking his fist every now and again when somebody got too close. And people are pushing in on Jesus, and people are touching him, you know, and so on. And he's just marching forward. And suddenly, Jesus stops in his tracks. And he says, someone's touched me. Who's touched me? And Peter says, or one of the disciples says, what do you mean, who's touched you? What do you mean, who's touched you? They're all touching you. They're pressing in on you. Look at the size of this great crowd. What do you mean, who's touched you? But Jesus says, no. You don't understand. Power has left me. Power has gone from me. Somebody has touched me. And he's looking around to see who this person is. I love that. God looking around to see. Okay. That's another story. But he's looking around to see. And it's this woman who'd been bleeding for 12 years, non-stop. And she'd been hemorrhaging. I find it interesting that Jairus' daughter's age 12. And this woman has been bleeding for 12 years. There's something there. And she spent all her money on the doctors. And nobody's been able to cure her. She is unclean, right? She's ceremonially unclean. She shouldn't be anywhere near people. But she is. I reckon she's wrapped herself up so that no one could recognize her. I reckon she had a hoodie on, like these youngsters who go around these days with hoodies, and you're thinking, what is going on there? What badness are you up to? Anyway, that's another story. So she's got a hoodie on, and she's there. But she's not just there on the edge of this great crowd. She's actually pushing her way through this great crowd. She's pushing. I reckon she'd receive an elbow or two, or a kick or two. Great crowds aren't always friendly, And she's pushing, and she might have had a bit of a smell about her as well. I don't know. I speculate. But she's pushing through. Why is she pushing through? Because she's heard the report about Jesus. She's heard that things happen when he's around. That people are made better when he's around. She's heard the report that blind people have been given their sight, that deaf people have been given their hearing, that dumb people have begun to speak, that multitudes of people have been served food from just some crumbs. She's heard this, and she's thinking, right, I need to get to him. And so she's pushing through. She could have been killed at any time if they realized who she was because of her uncleanness. She shouldn't have been there. She was breaking the law. She should have been in a home or outside of the town, the city or village in which she belonged to. But she was in the midst of this crowd, pushing through. And she gets to a place where she can actually reach out and touch his feet. No, she didn't get that far. She managed to reach as far as the hem of his garment. And she touched it. And as immediately she touched it, power left Jesus. And her bleeding stopped instantly. Stopped in its tracks. She felt the change in her body. And Jesus felt that power had left him. And he said, "Who touched me?" And he's looking around at this great crowd. And I reckon she probably tried to hide. And said, "Oh. Who's touched me?" he says. And realizing that she can't hide, she comes forward in the front of this great crowd. And said, "I've been bleeding for 12 years. The doctors couldn't help me. And I just felt that if I touched the hem of your garment, then maybe things could change for me. And I touched the hem of your garment. I pressed through. I wouldn't be put off. I risked my life to touch the hem of your garment. And my body changed." And Jesus looked at her and he said, "My daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." And she was acknowledged by his statement as clean in front of this great crowd because the great rabbi had said she was clean. And she was clean because the blood had stopped flowing. And the great rabbi acknowledged it in front of everybody. Well, he's on a journey, Marina. And he's just lingered. And the report comes back that Jairus' daughter, who's 12-year-old, has died. She's dead. And they say to Jairus, "Don't bother Jesus. She's gone. She's died." There's no need him coming. And Jesus overhears the conversation and he says, no. Don't fear. She's only asleep. I'm going to wake her up. They start laughing at him. She's dead. You're saying she's asleep. You're a nutter. You're mad. What's wrong with you? But he keeps walking with the disciples and the crowd's following him. And he gets to Jairus' house. When he gets to Jairus' house, there is the morning party there. The morning, not morning, morning party there. And they're wailing and crying out and so on. You know, there are professional mourners these days. 2002, my father died, and we had a professional mourner at his funeral, at the graveyard, okay? And there's this woman going, "Wah! Wah! Wah! Wah!" like this. And I said to my uncles, I said, "Who is she?" They said, "We don't know." They said, we come up from Slough. We were ready at the time. Come up from Slough. She got on the coach and came up with this professional mourn. And so, they're wailing, and they've got their tambourines or timbrels or whatever it is. They've got instruments. And Jesus says to them, "What is this commotion you're causing? Stop it." And she's not dead. She's just sleeping. And they start laughing at him. Anyway, he puts them out, and he takes Peter, James, and John, and he takes the girl's mother and father, and he says, "Just you 5 come in with me now." And he goes into the house where the dead girl is lying, and he goes up to her and says, can I speak a bit of Hebrew now? Talitha kumai. Little girl, I say to you, arise. And she sits up. She sits up. And he says to the family, "Give us something to eat." And they gave us something to eat. And he said to the parents, "Don't tell anybody." I love that. Don't tell anybody. And he leaves. You see, these 2 accounts of Jesus' activity displays something very important apart from his miraculous power. Okay? Displays something very important apart from his miraculous power. Something very important about his heart and his motivation. And this morning, I want us to discover the heart of Jesus, the motivation of Jesus together as we look at these 2 accounts. So, question to get us started. Are you ready, Steve? The question is this: what is it that impresses you about from these 2 accounts of Jesus' work? What is it that impresses you? Linda.
He sees the individual's pain and it doesn't bother him who's around and taking note.
Okay. He sees the individual, he sees their pain, and he's not concerned about who's watching on or whatever. He's focused. Anyone else? Amanda, please.
I like the way he's got a purpose. He's going to Jairus' house, and then a distraction comes, and he deals with that. He doesn't go, no, I'm too busy, I'm doing this. He stops and gives time, because he knows he can still go on and do the other thing. Okay.
He's not distracted, He's just, if it was me, I'd have been saying, just wait. I'd be doing that. Just wait. But he isn't. He's not distracted. He's got time to deal with what's come before him and still stay on track. Yeah.
I think with the first one, he knew that lady would have been a social outcast, possibly because of being unclean.
Yeah.
If he didn't step in and say, "You're clean,
yeah.
you're healed,
yeah.
everyone, look what just happened,"
yeah.
she might have been left in a position where
Yeah.
the healing had still left her ostracized,
Yeah.
because no one might have trusted her after
Yeah.
that point. So he made sure
Yeah.
that she had
Yeah.
the healing in her full life.
Affirmation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with the child, he didn't need anyone to know what had gone on.
Yeah.
It wasn't in a grander purpose. It was doing the right thing. Something that I say to the kids quite often about integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's watching.
Okay. Yeah.
And he did the right thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't for the crowds. It
Yeah.
wasn't for anything, but because he loved that child.
Okay. Right. Did the right thing. It wasn't a show. It wasn't a gimmick. He wasn't trying to get attention. He was doing the right thing. Lovely. Hello,
Hello, Nina.
Nina.
I think in his ministry of 3 years, he covers everything, how people can approach him and how he heals no matter what. And that is miraculous that it gets performed.
Yes.
And it's beautiful in every, so everyone he has healed.
Everyone. Yeah.
And they have all come in different circumstances to
Okay.
him.
Right.
And he heals.
Yeah. Everyone he heals, they've all come with different circumstances to him, and that's so good. And also the fact that with this, it's so thorough what he does. Okay. It's like Will has highlighted the fact that it was that woman received a healing. But he knew that it was important that he declare as a rabbi that she was healed, else her community would not have received her back. So he's so thorough in what he does. Yeah. Okay. Rob?
Yeah, I guess I'm impressed with Jairus because he risked. Well, it would have been easy, wouldn't it, to think, oh, nothing can be done, but he risked his own reputation in society. He was a leader, and yet his love for his daughter, he didn't really care what anyone else thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jairus, impressive. He didn't care what anyone thought. He was willing to risk his reputation. Because, you see, the Pharisees and the Sadducees didn't think very much of Jesus. They didn't like Jesus. And here's Jairus, he's a synagogue leader. He's not a priest, he's not a Pharisee, but he's a synagogue leader, he's a religious leader. All right? And so here he's siding with Jesus by going to see Jesus. And so he knew that the Pharisees who people looked up to and the Sadducees who people looked up to would look down on him. But his reputation was of no matter because he just wanted to see his daughter made well. Yeah? Beautiful. Will?
I liked how after he raised Jairus' daughter from the dead, he said, "Give her something to eat." He knows our needs.
Yeah.
He even knew her needs.
Yeah.
Might have not been the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
But he knew.
He knew. Yeah. So again, this healing is so thorough. It isn't just healing and he moves on, etc. He knows she needs food. She needs sustenance. Just again, so concerned with detail. Yes. Hi.
Okay, I just wanted to comment on verse 49. While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead," he said. "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just believe, and she'll be healed." So sometimes when we have faith, there are voices that speaks to us, that distract us from having faith in God, in believing in God.
Yes.
So Jesus said to him, "Don't be afraid, just believe."
Yeah.
So we need to just believe.
Exactly. Yeah. And those voices those negative voices can impart doubt and encourage fear and so on. And Jesus says, don't fear, just believe. You believed in the beginning, keep believing. Oh my Gideon. You believed in the beginning, keep believing. Ignore the doubts and the fears that are coming through from other people to get in your way of receiving what God has promised to you. Keep believing and don't fear. Receive that today. There's someone needs to receive that today. Yes, Laura.
So we know that Jesus is about doing the Father's business.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jesus is led by the Father, and Jesus is led to this place. And what impresses me is that Jesus is led to a place where there's need. That Jesus turned up because of the people.
Yeah.
He didn't have his own agenda.
Yeah.
He went to where the need was, and the
Yeah.
people welcomed him,
Yeah.
which wasn't always the case.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, he was doing the Father's will. The
Yeah.
Father's heart is to come to us, to our needs.
Yeah.
And then when we're in his presence, we can come to him.
Yeah.
We can come to him in different ways. We can
Yeah.
ask directly. We can come secretly.
Yeah.
But Jesus knows that we're coming to him, and when we're in his presence. And I just love the fact that he went to the people
Yeah.
because there's need.
He goes where there's need. This great God goes where there's need. Sue, what do you think?
I was just absolutely blown away by the faith, particularly of the woman with the issue of blood. That's what's really struck me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her determination
Her determination
to get through,
to keep
get to
going
him.
and keep going.
Get
And
to
actually, the fear of man as well, that really spoke to me in both cases, that people got over their fear of man
Yeah.
to get to Jesus
Yeah.
to receive their healing.
Okay, yeah. In the determination to get to Jesus, all right, on what basis? On the reports that she had heard, the gossip that she had heard about what Jesus was doing. On the basis of that, she was determined to get to him. Oh, I hope you're hearing this. Laurie.
What gets me is when he said, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Now, we know that Jesus was fully man, fully God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just wonder, what would he have said if he was fully man? Look what I've done. This is why you need to
if he was
worship
just
me.
fully man, you mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If he was just fully man, he would. What would he have said? Would he have been using it as a time of just, this is my showpiece, But he wasn't just fully man, was he? He's fully God, and God doesn't need to boast. God doesn't need to boast. I like that. Yes, Marina.
What impresses me is that in a society that so denigrated women, that they had a prayer which said, I thank you, God, I wasn't born a slave, a dog, or a woman.
Yeah.
That Jesus risked his reputation, that both these miracles were female.
Yes.
And Jairus, risked his reputation, wasn't for his firstborn son, it was for his daughter.
Oh, yes.
And that's an intense kind of love in that society. It was such an unusual love in that society.
Women in that time were seen as nothing, were seen as disposable. A father seemed to see his daughter as disposable, but the son was everything, And leaders of the day seemed to see women as disposable. And so here's Jesus giving attention to two women, all right? And not only that, you've got the father putting his, risking his reputation for his daughter. That was phenomenal in their culture, all right? And, and so powerful. Yes, Lib.
Well, very similar to Marina's, both of them, the woman with the hemorrhage and Jairus, were risking everything in different ways. And it's the level of humility that accompanies what they're doing. So they're risking everything in their society and in their culture to hopefully have the outcome that they believe Jesus has got the power to provide. But there's no guarantee. So they just risk everything and just go for it in humility. And the humility
they risk everything, and they just go for it on the basis of the report that they've heard about Jesus. Are you hearing that? On the basis of the report, not a conversation with him, not a conviction, but the report. They're so desperate for their freedom that on the basis of a report, they're willing to risk everything. As Lib says, with no guarantee. All right? Wow. Okay. Anybody else? Andrew Robinson, come on. What impresses you?
Most of the things I was thinking have been said.
Yeah.
I think just the humility and the desperation of the young women and the father of the girl that died. Those were the things that were just sticking out.
The desperation, you said.
It was the kind of everything that you've just been saying. Based on the report.
Yeah.
There weren't particular, like especially with the first girl who was hemorrhaging. There wasn't an opportunity. There wasn't a calling. Come forward. She pressed in. She reached out. She touched, and it was all that faith and humility and everything. And I think that's where, we're currency of the kingdom is faith, isn't it? That's how we get healed. That's how we walk into everything that God's promised for us. It's through faith. So that's just such a clear account of that measure of faith. And I think in our day-to-day lives as individuals, we forget that, where we wait sometimes, and we wait sometimes we wait too hard for God to come to us before we step forward to Him.
Okay.
And that's what sticks out to me. And just now is just saying we got to just pursue and reach out and don't worry about who's in the room, who's looking, whether we look weak or whatever our stature is in the community. We just have to reach out in faith, completely in faith, and that's where we can see breakthrough and healing.
Yeah, great. And Stacey, what impresses you?
I think most of the things have actually already been said. The basic things that come across to me is just the love and kindness, the kind of, there's no end to it from Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just ongoing. That is his mission, that is what he's doing, and I think that stands out to me.
No end to his love and kindness. No end. That's his mission, to love people, show kindness. Nigel?
I'm looking at Peter, James and John when they get to Jairus' house. It says, nobody come in except you three and the parents.
Yeah.
And Peter, James and John didn't say, this time let somebody else go. We've had our turn. We'll step aside this time and let one of the disciples experience what he's going to do. Yeah. They were up for it. Yeah. They went with him, and the parents were there, and they were with him too. Yeah. And that shows desire, faith. But willing to step out in faith.
Yeah, it's good. I reckon you're right. Will, one other thing.
When he got all the unbelievers out, he got rid of unbelief, because just had a few people, because unbelief can stop him doing miracles.
So there is that thing, isn't it, that if we're going to, it's like Jesus saying it's important to get rid of that which is unbelief, that faith and unbelief don't mix. And so he physically got rid of those who did not believe, so that person could have her freedom. Okay, one more.
I was just thinking about it. I reckon if I was Jairus, I might have gotten quite angry and bitter that Jesus had hesitated and sorted out the
I would have too. I definitely.
But he didn't. He didn't seem to be. He wasn't filled with resentment and anger. Like, oh, look, now my daughter's died because you did this. So there was some grace there.
There was something in Jairus. He's a bit special, wasn't he? And because he didn't have an emotional reaction, because there seemed to be a delay. I think that's absolutely wonderful, what you've shared. I want to say this, that Jesus was popular. The reason why he was popular, and he was popular, because Luke 8 verse 40 says that when he got out of the boat, a great crowd was waiting for him. That showed he was popular. They'd been hanging about, waiting for him to come back from across the lake. And I believe he was popular because, as you say, anyone could approach him. He was accessible to anybody, whether you were an official or not, whether you were a religious leader or not, whether you had degrees or not, whether you had been to the best university in the land or not, whether people looked up to you or not. Jesus was accessible to you. And what I see is it doesn't matter, you see, about our sex, our color, our class, our status, whether we're upbeat, whether we're living under condemnation, whether we're struggling with guilt, whether we're struggling with fear, whether we're hated by our peers, loved by the masses, seen as an enemy by some. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter. And the people were getting that message. The Pharisees didn't give off that message. The Sadducees didn't give off that message. The other rabbis of the day didn't give off that message. But only Jesus, the Son of God, did. And everybody wanted a piece of him because they knew he was interested in them. There is always a requirement, isn't there? In everything. There's always a requirement. And he had one requirement. And whenever somebody came to him and he healed them or touched them by touching them or by speaking to them or by sitting in their home and eating with them or standing in the way to stop people from hurting them, he always said to them, "Your faith has made you well." Say that with me. Your faith has made you well. One more time. Your faith has made you well. All he required was this. Trust me. Put your faith in me. Put your confidence in me. Will said faith is the currency of heaven. It's the currency of the kingdom of God. If we want anything from God, if we want to encounter God, then God says, trust me. Put your faith in me. Because, see, God is a relational God. He's into relationship. Although he created the universe and everything in it, and all the things that we see and what we don't see, etc., he's done it all. He made the world, this wonderful planet. He made us. He made everything in it. He made it. He doesn't stand aloof from what he's made. But he comes near and says, I want a relationship with the pinnacle of my creation, which is humanity. He says, I want a relationship with you. And relationships are based on love and trust, i.e. faith. He said, that's what I want. And in the Old Testament, people say the Old Testament is just rules and regulations, and the God of the Old Testament is different to the God of the New Testament. That's a load of rubbish. The God of the Old Testament is the same as the God of the New Testament. And you say, but Jesus spoke about love, and I love the fact that Jesus talks about love and mercy and kindness and etc. And I don't see that in the Old Testament. Well, you're not reading it correctly, because the law says that first and foremost that we are called to love God, and then out of our love, obey his commandments. But if we obey his commandments without love, it doesn't work. It's not acceptable. There has to be love and followed by obedience. He's interested in love. He loves us. And he wants us to love him back. You know, people say to you, look at all the pain in the world. If there's a God who's around, why doesn't he control everything and stop all the pain and the misery and all the sorrow in the world? You know, and people get really angry about this. You know, the fact that they get angry about it shows that they want to believe there is a God, because if they didn't believe there was a God, they wouldn't get angry. You don't get angry about what is not there, do you? So anyway, there you go. So, and they're crying out. Why? 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 Because there's something in them that says that if there's a God, he's a God of love. But this God of love, you see, he can't be a controller, and control and love don't go together. You see, if you love, you give people choice. If you love, you give people free will. If you love, you let people walk away if they want to walk away. And if you love, you receive them when they come back, no matter how hard they've hurt you. You love. And so God gives us in act because He's love. Free will. Can I say this? Love is not God. Love is not God. And people go around saying, love, it's all about love, 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 worship, love, love, love. No, God is love. Love flows from God. What we know about love is what He has taught us. Don't worship love. Worship God, from whom love comes. Worship God, who's given us the potential to love like He loves. And He wants a relationship with us. And He says, you've got to trust me. He says, please will you trust me? Please will you put your confidence in me? I'll deliver. I will. Because I love you. I love you. And no matter who you are, no matter where you've come from, no matter what people have said about you, no matter what you believe about yourself, no matter how, if you think you're highbrow, if you think you are nothing, God loves you. And He says, will you trust me? Will you put your faith in me? Will you? Will you? Will you be like Jairus and put your reputation on the line to encounter my love and the benefits of my love? Will you be like the woman with hemorrhaging for 12 years who's lost all her money? Would you be like her? Would you press through? Would you press through the people and move past the people who say that I don't exist? Would you push the people out of the way who say that it's silly to believe in me? Would you push past the people who say evolution is the way things came into being and God does not exist? Would you push back them? Would you push past the ridicule of your family who if they find out that you're going to church and praying to Jesus would mock you and think you're a lunatic? Would you push past all of that? Are you desperate to be free? Are you desperate to live? Are you desperate to be healed? Are you desperate to leave the depression and the pain and the sorrow behind? Are you desperate to leave hopelessness? Are you so desperate to leave hopelessness behind that you're willing to eject people from your life who would fill you with fear and unbelief so that you can come to me, the God who loves you, and so that I can heal you? And I don't want to heal you to show how big I am. I don't want to heal you to show people how powerful I am. I don't want to heal you so that you will praise me and all the rest of it. I have angels praising me all the time. I don't need anything from you. I want to heal you because I love you, says the Lord. I want to bring peace to your mind because I love you. I want to bring peace to your heart because I love you. I have a plan for your life to prosper you because I love you. I want to walk with you through life because I love you. That's it. That's it. That's it. And that little girl and that lady, they would follow Jesus forever. Because those of us who love him, we love him because he first loved us. Love gives birth to love. He healed us. He made us whole. He forgave our sins. He cleansed us. He lifted us up out of the miry heap. He placed us and seated us in heavenly places with him. When we were hopeless, he gave us hope. When we didn't have joy, he gave us joy. When we didn't feel that we could get up and go through the week, he empowered us to go through the week. And because of that, we love him. Because of that, we adore him. Because of that, we give him our allegiance. Because of that, we live for him. God is saying to you, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you have been through, no matter what the failings, the joys, the celebrations, the mistakes, no matter how you've been treated, no matter what you think of yourself, Jesus says, you can come to me because I love you, and I will not condemn you. I will not push you away. I'm eager for you, and I will stop what I'm doing when you come towards me, because it becomes all about you. It becomes all about you in that moment. That's the heart of God. For you, for me, for every single human being in West Cornwall, every human being in this nation, and every human being in the world. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but shall have eternal life. That's all of it.